Are you getting that it might not be a consent issue? That it might be that they don't want to intermarry with these people, but it's not really a question of non-consensual sex. Hey guys, welcome to Joel Reads Bible. I'm Joel and I'm reading the Bible. Guess why? So you don't have to. I should do a live version of this podcast / video series sometime where I read a chapter or two live, but we'll get the audience to be like, and I'm reading the Bible, so you don't have to. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to read chapter 34. Pew, 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 pew. Anyway, we are reading Genesis chapter 34. You want to subscribe because and this is a bit of a, it's an advertisement for the channel, but we have a lot of great stories just in Genesis. And that's before we even get to the Exodus. There's a lot of stories that we just know from childhood and things like that. They're coming up. But what's fun about reading them in this context is that I'm reading them with fresh eyes at face value, asking questions about them. And then there's a bunch of these other stories that are like, oh, did that happen? Oh, I didn't realize that was a thing. Okay, all right, neat. Little details that maybe a lot of people didn't really remember. And then there's a lot of people, and they happen to be people that comment on my videos who know a lot of details of a lot of stories and how they interact. And they add stuff to them. That's the weird thing. They go, no, this is the thing. And I go, where did that come from? And they go, radio silence. Okay, so we are going to read chapter 34. At this point, Jacob is sitting outside of Canaan. He's back to his native land, which he is an alien in, and it has not been given unto him yet. Jacob is not Jacob anymore. He's Israel. He's still called Jacob if I look really quickly. So him being named Israel is, I guess, maybe just a little nickname God gave him. That is one of his names. But as we know from any of these great stories in the Bible or Lord of the Rings, people have 2 or 3 names, and places have 2 or 3 names. When in doubt, throw another name out there. Anyway, I've been rambling too long. Genesis chapter 34. Now Dinah, the daughter Leah had borne to Jacob, went out to visit the women of the land. When Shechem, son of Hamor, the Hivite, the ruler of that area, saw her, he took her and violated her. That's not a laughing matter. His heart was drawn to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the girl and spoke tenderly to her. And Shechem said to his father Hamor, "Get me this girl as my wife." So Shechem violated Dinah and then was like, no, I love her. I wasn't worried about consent, be that as it may. I want her as my wife. And I don't know if there's any sort of rule by which a man violating a woman can then take her as his wife, but can we make this happen? And by the way, I've been pretty critical about assuming that consent just wasn't involved in any of these sorts of sexual situations. And I think that there's probably some truth to that as far as like, you're going to marry this person. I mean, Jacob, he was given Leah, and there was no talk of Leah having any agency in that. He was given Leah, mistakenly slept with her, and then she was his. So what does violated her mean in this context? It might mean there wasn't any consent. That makes sense, and that's horrible. Could also mean they slept together and they just weren't married. There was no commitment there. That it was just, I'm just going to take your virginity, so you are not worth as much. When Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled, his sons were in the fields with his livestock, so he kept quiet about it until they came home. Then Shechem's father Hamor went out to talk with Jacob. Now Jacob's sons had come from the fields as soon as they heard what had happened, so he didn't keep it that quiet. They were filled with grief and fury because Shechem had done a disgraceful thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, a thing that should not be done. again, I wonder what the disgraceful thing is. Could it be that Jacob would not have given Dinah to Shechem? Like, I'm not that confident that it's the consent question. That's just where I'm having a hard time. I just am not that sure. I feel like it is the taking her virginity thing, and I just don't know how it was that I'm sure Jacob was wronged in this case. But Hamor said to them, "My son Shechem has his heart set on your daughter. Please give her to him as his wife. Intermarry with us. Give us your daughter and take our daughters for yourselves." Are you getting that it might not be a consent issue? That it might be that they don't want to intermarry with these people? And yes, he did take her virginity without a marriage, whatever marriage was back then. But it's not really a question of non-consensual sex. "You can settle among us. The land is open to you. Live in it, trade in it, and acquire property in it." Then Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, "Let me find favor in your eyes, and I will give you whatever you ask. Make the price for the bride and the gift I am to bring as great as you like, and I'll pay whatever you ask me. Only give me the girl as my wife." Pause the video and put in the comments what you think the verdict will be. Will Jacob say, "Yes, you can have the daughter. I mean, you defiled her already. She's worthless to anyone else. No one else is going to want her. I'm going to ask for 50 shekels more, or maybe I'll say, you can't, I don't want anything from you." What's your guess? I have a feeling Dinah's marrying Shechem. I hope the answer is no, or I hope that we understand where Dinah's coming from. Because what I would love for this story is that Dinah was into it, and Shechem had wooed her, but because of the situation, maybe the racial tension or whatever it is, it was wrong in the moment. But now they'll be like, okay, you can have Dinah. So that would be the best case scenario, maybe. Because their sister Dinah had been defiled, Jacob's sons replied deceitfully as they spoke to Shechem and his father Hamor. I think this is going to get good because the trickiness of Jacob and his clan is maybe going to be used for some justice this time. They said to them, "We can't do such a thing. We can't give our sister to a man who is not circumcised. That would be a disgrace to us. We will give our consent to you on one condition only, that you become like us by circumcising all your males. Then we will give you our daughters and take your daughters for ourselves. We'll settle among you and become one people with you. But if you will not agree to be circumcised, we'll take our sister and go." They're being deceitful, which we know, so they're never going to give her over, which is nice. I like that. They're defending their sister's honor. I feel like the issue here is not so much about the consent, because what we know from other parts of the Bible is that women, once their virginity is taken, they're kind of useless. Like people, nobody else will want them, sort of thing. And there's just not a place here that's speaking or mentioning consent. Yes, she's been violated. Yes, she's been defiled. What is being mentioned more is intermarried. You're not circumcised. Also, fascinating that Dinah isn't in this conversation, right? Like, this is just men discussing a piece of property that could, if they said the word, go with him. If not, they'll just take her with all their stuff and go. I would say it's horrible for Dinah any way you look at it. If it were a sexual assault, horrible. And then this negotiation is also kind of horrible. If it wasn't an assault, like if she was consensual, then this is also just kind of horrible. Their proposal seemed good for Hamor and his son Shechem. The young man, who was the most honored of all his father's household, lost no time in doing what they said because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. Shechem just cut that foreskin off with glee. He was just so happy to lose it. By the way, Shechem, you thought stuff felt good before? Well, say goodbye to a bunch of nerve endings. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city to speak to their fellow townsmen. "These men are friendly toward us," they said. "Let them live in our land and trade in it. The land has plenty of room for them. We can marry their daughters and they can marry ours. But the men will consent to live with us as one people only on the condition that our males be circumcised, as they themselves are. Won't their livestock, their property, and all their other animals become ours? So let us give our consent to them, and they will settle among us." It's a sales pitch. All the men who went out of the city gate agreed with Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male in the city was circumcised. 3 days later, while all of them were still in pain, 2 of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city, killing every male. Thank you. Thank you. If this was the revenge of a sexual assault, I'm down. I'm all for it. I love it. I mean, killing the rest of the town just for something Shechem did is a little bit much, but I feel that is a sense of justice. But if the violation was simply taking her virginity and she wasn't that upset about it, and that they defiled her because she wasn't married when they slept together, and he was of the wrong race because they love to keep it in the family, then this is another horrific passage of the Bible that shows a great deal of nationalism and racism amongst the Hebrew people. I'm not sure which one it is. You guys can talk to your pastor about that. They put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword and took Dinah from Shechem's house and left. So she was in his house. They allowed that? I guess she was there for 3 days and they couldn't do anything. You know, he could have done maybe some mouth stuff, but he was incapacitated. The sons of Jacob came upon the dead bodies and looted the city where their sister had been defiled. They seized their flocks and herds and donkeys and everything else of theirs in the city, and everything else of theirs in the city and out in the fields. They carried off all their wealth and all their women and children, taking as plunder everything in the houses. They ransacked that place. This was a good get. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have brought trouble on me by making me a stench to the Canaanites and Perizzites, the people living in this land. We are few in number, and if they join forces against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed." So this was not, Jacob did not sign off on this. This was something that the brothers did, which you can get that, right? The brothers are like, touch our sister? You screwed around with Dinah? We're going to trick you and kill you. We always have to do a trick, though. It's more fun. But they replied, "Should he have treated our sister like a prostitute?" The chapter basically ends with, well, 2 wrongs might equal a right, Dad. He treated our sister like a prostitute, and so, yeah, we had to kill him. But I just want to highlight this point. Should he have treated our sister like a prostitute? How much weight should we put on that verse? Because when I've heard this story talked about, it's always in the context of a sexual assault. But you don't sexually assault prostitutes. They are willing. You pay them, but they are willing. What does prostitute mean in this context? There isn't a mention of consent or lack of consent. They don't use the R word, which they use in other passages of the Bible, at least in the NIV. They don't use "he seized her." That's another way that they can say that sometimes. There's no "forced himself on her." It's "he violated her." Her not wanting it or being unwilling, I should say, is not in the text. You can imply it. I will accept that that's what it was. I'm not saying it wasn't that. But when we say he treated her like a prostitute, well, that's not how you treat a prostitute. They sleep with you for money. They're in on the transaction. I have a feeling that the thing that was wrong here was that they were the wrong race, and that Shechem took Dinah's virginity without asking Jacob first, paying him and doing all the marriage stuff that you're supposed to do. But I'm no Bible scholar, so hey, maybe I'm way wrong. But that is chapter 34, and we'll be back with chapter 35. Ring the bell, subscribe, like this video, please. Like all the videos. Just go click all on the videos, just like them. Or if you like me, but you don't want to listen to the Bible or something, just hit play on the thing and then just like let it play, and just like turn down the physical volume on your computer and just like let it play, and then just like put it on the playlist so that they all play. That would be really helpful. You don't have to pay attention, whatever. But yeah, we'll see what happens in chapter 35. This one was a little bit of a heavy one. I think we got through it, and I think we figured out what it might really be about. Guys, it's been really fun, and we'll see you next time. Bye.